Hello there, I hope you're doing fine wherever you are. So, once Richard Wolff once said that the problem of telling truth to power is that children may know their truth and power will remain to power. Come think about this situation while we are going to watch this video. These words were said by Richard Wolff. Richard Wolff in one of his works for Cure Capitalism, So, this video involves James Baldwin with Paul Wh.yte, and there is something that they are going to address which is really, really important. This is a TV show which was back then in 1970s. I wasn't born, my mom wasn't born probably. It's an old video, so I just found it, and I really feel that it's important to the people of 21st century because it really, really relates to the contemporary society, especially what black folks are going through. So I want us to watch this video and then come back, talk about something, because mostly white folks, or maybe some white folks, always look down upon and say that we white people, we normally complain a lot about things instead of just accepting things happen and move on. And this is the importance of critical race theory that James Baldwin, one of our biggest authors, one of our biggest professors that we had in those times. So, whale is soul, rest in peace. But again, this message is really, really important for you and me as we learn together. So let's watch this video and then come back, say something about it.
And I guess I don't, yes I do, have a copy of the book that he recently wrote with his son. It's the one you may have read about in Time magazine, called Right and Wrong. It's a dialogue between father and son. His son is here and will be out later. He's a lawyer. And Mr. Weiss is, did I mention this? Sterling professor of philosophy at Yale. You've seen him on the show possibly before. He's the most interesting teacher I had at Yale because he didn't lecture. The class was fluid. He answers questions as they're fired at him. And I'd like him to meet you, if you haven't met him yet, and to meet Mr. Baldwin and Phyllis.
For each one of us, I think all this talk about poverty, race, prejudice is important, vital, but it's not really at the center. It deals only with the means and the way, or the obstacles in the way of becoming something much more serious and important. That is, to be someone in yourself. To become a man is a difficult job. It takes a lifetime.
I don't disagree with that at all.
I didn't think you would.
But I take that for granted. I really do.
That, you see, but by taking it for granted, you emphasize always the obstacles in the way, and perhaps you have it in mind, but I think your hearers very often forget that you have another objective in view, the one we both agree upon.
Is what I'm talking about.
I thought Dick was asking that question before when he asked you, aren't you being more extreme? Isn't there some other end? Is it all hopeless? In one sense, it is not hopeless. In another sense, it is. It's hopeless in the sense that nobody ever attains the state of being a full man. But it's not hopeless in the sense that every one of us has a problem which he can resolve more or less within himself. These obstacles are terrible, I agree with you, but they're not insuperable if you...
I'm not talking about that. I understand
I know
that.
you're not.
I understand that. But as we sit here now, by the will of the people, a man named Ronald Reagan governs California. And the terms I'm using, you must understand, are not the terms that I myself might choose. I'm not interested in whether a person is white or black or green or yellow, but I'm talking about the force of the state which at this moment is oppressing black people all over this nation.
Not all.
The force of the state which is oppressing every black man in this nation.
You write freely, don't you not? Is black getting in your way as being a writer, an author?
Yes.
It is? How is that? I'd like to know how being black gets in the way of your being an author.
In the first place, now you put me a little bit on the spot.
I
don't like to discuss myself or my work.
All right, let's not talk about you. Let's talk about some other black author or white author.
No, let's not do it that way. I'll tell you what I mean. I'll use myself. Let's go for broke. It is the first difficulty then is to, and you will say this is true for everybody, but I, unlike you, all right, in the first place have to deal with the fact that my history is inaccessible to me. That my history in this country begins with the bill of sale.
Your individual history?
My name is Baldwin.
Yes.
It's an old English name.
That. My name is Wh.yte, and it's been derived from somebody else. Maybe my great ancestor was white-haired or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, but you have at least the Psalms of David.
I don't have them. I don't think I've read them in 10 years.
That doesn't matter.
Or 20. I couldn't tell you one of them.
That doesn't matter.
Doesn't it?
No, it doesn't. One's got to face this fact. Let us say we're both black, right? We both get here at the same time, right? You come from one tribe, I come from another. You speak one language, I speak another. We cannot talk to each other. We don't know what is happening to us. We're confronting a white man with a Bible and a gun and a cross. And what you have to do, if you're going to live, is accept this stranger. This book you cannot yet read under the gun. Wait a moment. You asked me a question, I'll do my best to answer it.
Yes, but you must give me a chance to say something
Yeah,
too.
but one moment,
All right.
one moment. I will, I really will. I'm not trying to.
Can I do something even more unforgivable? Because due to the mechanics, if we don't pause now, we may not be back for a while. So we will, and then we'll be back. Stay with us. Gentlemen, where were we?
I was in the middle of the Psalms of David.
Yes.
Right?
It's attributed to me somehow.
But I was trying to make a point. The point is this simply: that one began here with a history of an identity, not only inaccessible, but also systematically and deliberately denied and destroyed. The Moynihan Report talks about the breakup of the Negro family, and it occurs to me as a very bitter kind of comment on the people who did their best to break up that family. Now to blame the family for being broken up, and to suggest
He wasn't doing that. The report I read. Okay.
Well, there are no male father images for the Negro child. Big news.
But he was trying to
In
describe
the first place, that's not as true as Moynihan would like to think. Otherwise, there would be none of us here at all. The point is that then, we come back to where I was. One has to really excavate out of the absence of a history, and then out of the presence of a history which is absolutely indescribable. You must remember that I was taught, and black children until today are being taught, that no black people ever contributed anything to history, that I was not much better than an ape, and I was lucky to be discovered in Africa by white people.
Mr. Baldwin, but if your case were carried out all the way through the way you're putting it, it'd be hard to understand how you ever wrote a word. After all, you're a distinguished novelist. You must have had time of freedom. Somebody must have paid attention to it. You must have been reviewed objectively as an author, not as a Negro. Nobody gave a damn whether your great ancestor had been born or sold, but they treated your literature or your work in its own terms. That's where you wanted it. That's where you had it. That's where you're having it now. What are you criticizing? What are you objecting to? That there are terrible injustices, everyone admits. But you're generalizing and you're rigidifying, and you're solidifying it in such a way as if there's no way out. You're an exhibition of the fact there's a way out.
Am I?
Yes. You yourself admitted. You're not just the incarnation of blackness, you're an author. That's why I think of you.
I beg your pardon. I'm also the oldest of 9 children, all of whom are black. I'm one of the few survivors of my generation, all of whom the people I'm speaking of are black. For every Jimmy Baldwin or Sammy Davis or Harry Belafonte or Sidney Wh.yte, there are a whole lot of people you've never heard of, at least equally talented, perhaps more talented, who do not manage. I'll tell you how one makes it in this country if you're black. You have to decide somehow that you are not going to be controlled by what white people think of you.
Of course. What anybody thinks of you, ultimately you have to think of yourself and be true to yourself.
I don't care what Senator Eastland thinks about me.
Who cares?
Or Ronald Reagan thinks about me, but they have the power to destroy my life and the life of my children, and this is given them by the will of the state. I'm not talking about myself as a writer. Of course I'm a writer, I know that. I know what produced me too. And it was not simply Charles Dickens or any of your colleges, it was also Bessie Smith and Ray Charles, and my father who was a preacher, and my mother who learned how to sing.
That's true of anybody who's a writer.
What I am trying to say is that the gap, the distance placed between myself and my own assessment, my own experience, was much greater than it would be for any white person in this country.
I don't believe it.
I know you don't believe it. I'm not complaining. I'm not copying a plea. It's not a special plea. I'm trying to make you see something. Pretend that I'm an actor.
Every child starts from scratch. They are helped in various exterior ways in order to be able to find themselves. But the finding of themselves goes within. To become a writer is something that you have to struggle with by yourself, in yourself. And all these other things are conditions and problems, everybody, no matter who, no matter what his attitude, is bigoted.
I did not say that.
Well, has an attitude, it's on his face, is in the way of every boss.
But you're
every
you're asking me to do something impossible. You're asking me to take the will for the deed.
Right. Do I take 30 seconds to answer that?
Jonathan, please.
All right. We will be back after this message.
You know, when I watched the video, I learned a lot of things from just watching the video. And this shows how some people usually feel about black folks, and they feel like we need to do much. We need to stop complaining about things, you know. I'm sorry about that. We need to stop complaining about things. So with that being said, it means that there are some things which are always underlooked, you know, and people with truth are not people with power. But come think about it. Between truth and power, which one really is power to you? Is truth power, or is power power to you? If you understand that situation, it's what is happening. I mean, in this video where James Baldwin is trying to challenge this Paul West, the interviewer, who thinks that we black folks, we always complaining about discrimination which is happening to people. So I felt that there is a lot of things that need to be said, and this is where the critical race theory comes in, because you don't just look at discrimination in form of just race, but we're looking how this discrimination has been institutionalized to things like education, social amenities, you know, and different aspects of people's life, especially the black folks who are going through these things. And I felt like there is so much discrepancies that the interviewer had, that is Paul West. There's so much underlooking of things, the struggles that people go through, that he also underlooked. And sometimes I felt like he really didn't understand what James Baldwin was trying to address in this case, because looking at it deeply, this man is trying to explain the struggles that black folks are going through, but him instead is just looking at it as a way for us just to stop complaining about things which happened. And he continues saying that the oppressors who did this thing died long time ago, and we are not them. Remember, the legacy of slavery still lives with people. That's why it's really hard to forget. And so one of the things that I usually think when I resonate with Louis Farrakhan, when he said this, if a person tells you, especially white folk, tells you to forget about slavery and the things which happened in the past, you also need to ask yourself, why don't they forget about what happened to them? Why are they still talking about what happened to them? How about you, who is talking about something which happened to you, you know? So there is so much in detail of how the interviewer thought about James Baldwin himself. And this really shows how some people think that they usually just complain. They don't see the intersectionality between race and discrimination. It's about that time we stop looking at race as just a group of people who are complaining, but look at it in intersection in this sense. How are people being treated in different places? How about age? How about gender of a given people? Talk about how about black women are being treated as compared to white women, you know? Those are the intersectionalities that I'm talking about. So for me, I feel like this video was really an eye-opening to me as an African back here at home who is watching this video at this point, and how crazy, like, this is something that happens maybe 50 years ago, and it is still relevant until today. It's also relevant until today. One thing that I would like to say while also I was watching this interview that I can take away from the interview was that we need to learn patience. And as you can see, James Baldwin was just patient when Paul West was trying to interrupt him. And at some point, I feel like he's becoming so ignorant in this sense that even though James Baldwin is trying to disapprove the points that he's saying, which is true because facts are out there, but he's still went blindly and distracted him, saying that it is not true, whatever he's saying, and that we need to do better. We need to stop complaining about the things which, are happening. So, with that being said, I've learned that sometimes you just need to take your composure. And this is what James Baldwin did. The composure that he had while rendering his facts to this person, how he tackled Paul Ways really speaks massive, really speaks a lot of how composed a person can be. You don't need to shout, you don't need to be frustrated to show your argument. And you can see he destroyed him so clearly, so plainly, so intellectually. And that was really great show. That was a take. And I really appreciate this TV show in as much as it is in the early 1960s, 1970s, because most of the things which James Baldwin addressed, mostly specifically on the critical race theory part, it is that most of people say that, African Americans complain because they don't understand and they don't want you to talk about you and your race and the things that you're going through. So it was a big takeaway for me while I was watching the video. Kindly tell me what to think about this video, specifically in the comment section, because for me, I've learned a lot and I took a lot out of the video, and probably I hope you also learned something out of the video. So guys, if you're watching this video for the first time, you can consider subscribing to my channel. You can join my membership, and if you have any inquiries, you can always get me through my email in my bio. Until then, peace, love, and harmony. Salute.